Okay, so I'm not going to talk about the Secret Legendary right now, but I do want to talk about the raid. Because you know me, fam, I'm a heroic raider. And you know me, I've been on holiday. I missed 2 raid nights. So I went to the first raid night of the tier with my guild on Thursday last. For the first Thursday of the raid. We went into normal. And we cleared normal all the way up to Sakareth. And we were like, okay, well, that's pretty, Sakareth was a bit more than we could do in one night after just getting to it. But we were like, all right, well, that's pretty good progress. Fucking hell. Probably a little bit easy, but whatever. We are badasses after all. And, what have you? And then I went on holiday on Saturday. So I missed the Sunday raid. And then I missed the first Thursday after the first reset. And I got in just in time to come to raid last night. So, they killed Sakareth on Sunday, a week yesterday, and then they started heroic on the reset, so, just Thursday. What boss do you think they were on? After one night of heroic progress without me, this heroic guild, what boss do you reckon they were on? Yeah, they were on Echo. They were like well into Echo of Neltharian progress. We killed it in a couple of pulls. And we spent the rest of the night progressing Sakareth, which, we didn't exactly get him down to his bare bones, but honestly, it's not going to be a problem. We'll probably kill him after the reclear, which is like wild, honestly. Sark on heroic or normal? No, we're on Sark heroic now, and it's absolutely crazy, that fight. Like, it's just that is a great transmog. Fair play, good transmog. Big fan of you, Vithrek. Well, maybe not you. Maybe you're horrible. Did they do him on normal to learn the fight? Yeah, I'm pretty sure they killed him on normal. But yeah, and I mean, for me, that's far too easy. For me, that means heroic is... I mean, normal was tuned a bit easier, but normal tuning's been getting easier and easier and easier. Fair enough. But for me, that heroic is tuned far too easily. No one in my raid wants to be completing the raid in like a week or 2. No one wants that. If you're a heroic raider, if you're a curve raider, then you do not want it. Or do you? For Sakareth, we were seeing no trouble at all in phase 1 or 2, but phase 3 we were dying instantly. Took us a good while to realize the tanks need to go into the rifts rather than explode all over the raid. Well, we know that. What's your average item level? Like 415, 420, something like that? Wouldn't you just go into Mythic then? Yeah, but that just complicates things. We just want like a good, solid, heroic progression. Shadowlands raids broke guilds. Well, I think it was a combination of Shadowlands raids and also just Shadowlands, though. That's the thing. I think, I don't think anyone in my guild wants to be done with the raid next week. Yeah, and it probably is gear up upgrades. But yeah, usually heroic progress takes us couple of months, maybe even 3 months, of which maybe a couple of weeks or 3 weeks will be progressing the final boss, but that's definitely not going to happen here. There should be some blocks on the way, right? The average pull is like 3 or 4 pulls for these heroic, and this is a heroic guild doing it, One of my friends is QA, and she said it was way undertuned because normal was based off of the catch-up gear and from there up. Well, whatever the reason, I'd rather have easier raids with quicker content than harder raids and slow content. My friend, LFR is there for you. And also, normal is incredibly easy and has been easy for a very long time. But I want my heroic... I'm not saying it should be really fucking hard, but I'd like it to last comparative to other heroic raids that we've done. And this one's just, we're going to be done with it next week, I'm pretty sure. And I think that's a bit shit. I don't like that. It's my first disappointment of this entire expansion. Time to become a Mythic Raider? I don't think anyone needs that stress, honestly. And the Catalyst isn't even open yet. Yeah, all those bitches crying about the Catalyst not opening. Heroic Vault of Incarnates was so rough for us in 10.0. I don't know if it has anything to do with it or if it would like that for other groups. I loved Vault of Incarnates. I had a great time in Vault of Incarnates. The raid lasted exactly the right sort of amount of time for me and our guild. We just had a really good time with it. I was really enjoying Dragonflight at that stage anyway. And I am now. And I really like so much about this raid. But it just kind of sucks that it's going to be over so quick. It really sucks. Dathair was horrible with pugs. Yeah, I don't give a shit about pugs. I'm really sorry. When it comes to raiding, I don't give a fuck about pugs. I'm really sorry. it's awesome if pugs like Blizz needs to do as much as possible to make it easier for pugs to get together, to make it easier for pugs to like communicate with each other and to do the content and to tackle the content. But it's not who the content is for. There needs to be content which is designed for organized groups, right? And Raid is that. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Make it as easy as possible for pugs to get together and try it and do it. And depending on how organized the pug wants to be, you know, great, awesome, fantastic. But don't design it with the dynamics of pugs in mind. That's completely like. And I'm not saying you're saying they should, but I'm not saying that. But I just don't think that's what it's for. Mythic. Yeah, but like, you know, heroic, normal. And normal's been getting easier and easier and easier, but heroic has always been a pretty good challenge. And I mean, this raid is completely not. This, you know, and it does kind of spoil it if it's too easy, because it is the content that makes my guild come online and play together. It's when I chat to my guild the most is when we're raiding. And the sooner that's over, like, the less time I'm going to have with my guild. It's as simple as that. And that's more likely to result in, you know, the guild disbanding than having a raid that we're progressing. In our case, for sure. And that sucks, man. I want to log in for raid night. I want to do all that fun stuff. So once it's cleared, you're not allowed back in there. Nobby No Dick, you have the perfect name. Now I realize that is a name that has been given to you, that you're leaning into and owning, rather than one you gave yourself. And it's well earned. No, but obviously farm is different to progression. Obviously farm is not as fun as progression. Obviously. Can always do alt night or achievement runs. Yeah, exactly. But that is not the same as progression. Progression is always the most fun. Always. Of course. Obviously. Like, that's not a controversial thing to say, right? Do you reckon it contributed narratively? If that's not a weird question. Lots of people think Sakareth is a chump, and I wonder if he would have come across as more dangerous if the raid was like just slightly tougher. Yeah, maybe. Just step into Mythic, my old guild, before I got serious, and go ahead the curve and go Mythic as far as we can. Sure, but because we're like, there's the, you know, we would either have to get more people in or cut people to do Mythic, to have the right amount of people. And no one wants to fucking be cutting people. That defies the entire point. If we have to cut people, it's not worth it. And just the thing of like, you know, heroic is the one that we always aim for. It usually takes us a couple of months to 3 months to do. That's good content for a patch. That's fun. You know? And we have realistic expectations of defeating it and getting curve. We would go into Mythic and we wouldn't have that mindset. You know, we wouldn't have the realistic end goal of completing it on Mythic. So our motivation would be much, much less. If the goal is to make the step from normal to heroic the same as heroic to Mythic, the only way to do that is to increase normal and heroic difficulty, because reducing Mythic difficulty will cause a riot, as has been seen. Here's the thing. I'm not suggesting some big sea change to the game. I'm not going, this is the change WoW needs to be good. I'm like, oh shit, usually heroic raid is this hard, and it's clearly nowhere near this hard in Season 2. Like, clearly, objectively, for whatever reason, whether it be the gear or whether it be the mechanics, but what is definitely true is heroic Abberus is much, much easier than pretty much any heroic raid we've had since probably Emerald Nightmare would be the nearest comparison, which again people thought was far too easy, but I think it's much, much easier than Emerald Nightmare, honestly. So I don't know. I don't know if it's the numbers or the mechanics. Probably a combination of both. But it for whatever reason, it is definitely easier. That isn't up for discussion. It definitely is. I feel like people are getting this impression solely because Magmarax is free when he shouldn't be. This impression, that it's easier? No, it's definitely easier. We've never cleared all the way to the final boss in like the first 2 raid nights of heroic before. Never. Since I've been in the guild. Definitely too easy. Asmon will be really happy, yeah. Asmon will be so happy. Someone tell Asmon that the raid is easy now. Yeah, like Magmarax is one boss, and like clearly it's easy without, you know, even if like take Magmarax out of the equation completely, the raid is still obviously undertuned, and the raids have, I mean, you know, the raids is what keeps WoW alive during its dark times, its darkest times. So I don't know what the reason is. I'm not clever enough to know, but it is clearly obviously easier. Spoilers, the race to world first for guilds with name a bit like Immortalis is already over. Over in a week. Unheard of. It wasn't us that won it. Yeah, exactly. And it's just no fun. It's no fun. Too easy. And, you know, even if we were in the lead right now, just being at Sakareth, it would still be, like, it's still too easy. It's just too easy. And it's a shame because Dragonflight is so good, and I don't want this to spoil the tier. I really don't want this to spoil the tier. We're gonna have to like, but some of us will want to go to Mythic, and some of us won't. People will leave to go and join a Mythic guild. There will be people in our team that will leave to go and do Mythic. I hear that Mythic Plus is kind of easy this season too, but that's okay because with Mythic Plus you can always make it harder. You can always go for a harder version. The achievements that you get from Mythic Plus are relative to the difficulty of certain keys, but honestly, with Mythic Plus, it's like, oh, okay, so, you know, instead of a plus 26 being the benchmark really for what is a high key this season, it's going to be like a 30 or something, you know? If Heroic is easy, why don't you try Mythic yourselves, though? Because there will be people that don't want to do it, and we might not be able to do it if we can't get the group size right. You know, like running a Mythic guild and doing Mythic progression involves things that we don't generally engage with. Things like benching people, which we don't like to do. The great thing about Heroic is that it's always offered a good challenge for our like skill level, but with a flex group size. So we never had to bench anyone, you know? And I don't give a shit about the race to world first now. I don't care about, you know, the world first guilds. I never care about them. Whenever they do something is like their thing, right? I'm just talking about us. And we're about as average players as you can get. And yeah, running a Mythic raid night is very, very different to running a Heroic one. Even if it's that much easier, even if it is better tuned, or an easier tuned, I should say, because that doesn't mean better. Even if it is tuned easier, there's still a whole lot of other things to do with getting a Mythic Plus group, getting a Mythic group together. Would you be for Mythic being flexed? No, I wouldn't. Mythic should be the highest level of difficulty. And group composition is important. I think group composition is a fun part of the game at the highest level, and I do believe that Mythic Raid should be the highest level of play. And, you know, those fights should be designed and tuned with a specific group size in mind, in my opinion. Yeah, definitely. But I want a challenging flex option as well. And Heroic has always proved that. Here's the thing, I'm not sitting here going, why has WoW never had this? I'm suggesting a fundamental change to the game. I'm not doing that. I'm being like, oh, I'm very disappointed that the difficulty that has always been our kind of level, that we've always enjoyed, and has always given us a certain level of challenge that we all really like, it's not there this season. That's all. I'm not saying Blizz needs to change anything. I'm just saying, like, it's disappointing to me that the gameplay mode that I look forward to the most, and that has been incredibly consistent for the last, you know, X amount of expansions. You always know what you're going to get with Heroic Raids is massively undertuned, hugely undertuned. You know, not just easier than usual, but like months worth of easier than usual for us. It's quite refreshing that most guilds won't spend the whole X-Pack farming Heroic. Counterpoint, farming Heroic we'll all spend much more time farming Heroic. Because we'll have beaten it so much easier, there'll be nothing else to fucking do. Counterpoint, there's way more farming Heroic in our future than there usually is. Farming more Heroic leads to better Mythic play? Disagree. Big disagree. Ain't no one thinking about their farm night. Ain't no one getting better at the mechanics during farm night. Like, the more you farm Heroic, the less good you get at the mechanics. Fact. Who agrees with me? Wise in chat. Like, the more you farm Heroic, the less good you get at the mechanics. Because you don't need to be as good at the mechanics. Like, the moment where you are at the absolute best at the mechanics is the first time you fucking kill the last boss. Is that why Mythic guilds do heroic splits? No, that's not why Mythic guilds do heroic splits. Mythic guilds are not doing heroic splits to get better at the mechanics. They're doing it for the gear. They want heroic to be as easy as possible. Look, if my guild, who are heroic geared from last tier, are going in and basically one-shotting their way to the final boss on heroic, it's too easy. And that's a real shame. And not just a little bit too easy, that's normal level difficulty. Like, that is a whole difficulty level too easy. It could be that an easier raid means a shorter time to the next raid tier. Well, I mean, I think in a couple of months, we're going to have, well, in like a month and a half, we're going to have a mega dungeon, sure. But I don't want that to take the place of a raid, especially because it's probably not going to be all that hard. And also, it's only 5 people in a dungeon group. Yeah, no, that is normal level. That's normal difficulty level, that is. So heroic is undertuned, in my opinion, by an entire difficulty level. You know, not just slightly undertuned, not easy for heroic, it's easy for normal. And that's really bad. Like, really bad, in my opinion. And, you know, I've raiding heroic has been my main pastime in WoW since WoD. You know, and what I do every single tier, my main thing that I try and do with my guild, our main objective, is to get curve. And it's never been anything like this easy. Really sad, honestly, in my opinion. And you know, it's not a big deal for me right now because we are still progressing. No, Sepulchre was fine. It was long. There was a lot of bosses in it, but it was tuned absolutely fine. It's way too, but this one is way too easy to the extent where it's not really fun. You know, being in raid is fun, but once progress is over, that's a huge part of a tier missing. Yeah, and it's a real shame because it's literally normal difficulty. And I have found normal raiding far too fucking easy to the extent that it's boring. Like, no one in our guild likes to do normal anymore because it's just boring. And heroic Abberus is literally at that level of the normal that was already too easy to be fun. Sep was not fun on heroic. I was fine. Like, I want to bang my head up against bosses to a certain degree. I want the fun of progressing and doing lots of pulls on a boss and practicing and getting it right on heroic. And the more bosses we can do that with, the better, frankly. I don't want it just to be the final boss of a raid. Do you think your group will try Mythic then? I hope so, but there'll be people that don't want to, and there'll be people that do want to, and I think we'll probably end up with not enough people. That's like only the second worst thing that could happen. You know, like, ideal scenario, there's exactly 20 of us that want to do Mythic, and it's a good comp. The not worst thing that could happen, but still bad enough that we won't raid Mythic, is that we don't have enough people. The worst thing that can happen is that we have too many and we have to bench people. Because that's why that's one of the reasons we like Heroic, is that we don't have to do that. Raid leader of a curve guild here, and we don't want to go into Mythic. We want a decent challenge without all the min-max or optimization or perfect gameplay. Yeah, exactly. I want to be challenged to play at my very best, which is usually ahead of the curve, right? I just don't want to be doing fucking achievement runs in week 3. I don't want to be doing that shit, man. Like, I missed one heroic progression night. I missed the first night of heroic, and I missed every single boss. Yeah, so Jim, like, we're gonna need a mythic team, but I mean, it's not as much fun, is it? I know you're being sarcastic in your comment, right? But like, I think the most likely scenario is that we don't get enough people. I think the most likely scenario is that we don't manage to make up 20 for Mythic. So we just don't do it. And that's going to really suck. So we'll have done with the raid after essentially 2 weeks, probably. I saw somebody take some Twitter of people saying, just do Mythic. Yeah, no, it's not, is it? It's not. That's not the answer, unfortunately. Yeah, Mythic needs 22-ish people. That's exactly it. Like, to make sure that you are doing Mythic progression every night that you organize it, you do need to bench people. And that's something that we have worked really, really hard not to do in our guild. And for some reason, like, Jim will know more about this than me, because I'm not an officer, and I'm not, I don't want to be an officer, and I don't envy them the amount of work that they have to put in for it. But for some reason, our guild just is like fucking allergic to recruiting. Our guild is like, since about Shadowlands, I want to say, kind of BFA actually. Since about BFA, our guild, it's like kind of against our religion to recruit. And I don't know why, but there's this real fucking reluctance to like recruit in our guild. Like, as far as I'm aware, we're still keeping a slot open for someone that stopped playing at the end of Legion. Like, Murph still has his fucking slot, right, Jim? And it's one of the reasons we're not recruiting. And it's a shame. It's a real shame. And I think the most likely scenario is that we're not going to have enough people for Mythic, so we don't do Mythic. And I mean, we'll just be done with raiding way too early in this tier. How's the race for Immortalis World first going? Over before I even set foot into the raid. And that's not why I'm saying it's too easy, by the way. I don't actually care about that. Obviously, it's a bit of fun, whatever. I care about it being too easy because, like, we've essentially got every boss on farm apart from Sakareth, and I haven't even seen half of them.